Thanks to everyone for watching and subscribing. If you'd like a Shenanigans sticker, email me here. Thanks!
Right, let's have a look at this. It's time to give the head some attention. Maybe I can get some light in there. So what we got going on? You see we've got some broken pulleys. I guess they're referred to as sheaves or sheaves. I don't know when a pulley is a sheave or a sheave and not a pulley. Anyway, both of these pulley cones have broken areas, but there's other things going on. So tooth pulley here has play, and indeed the key fell out the bottom not long ago, and when under load this top pulley walks upwards and will get one complete spacing off relative to the motor pulley there. And I keep readjusting it while I was trying to make some parts. So obviously that's not good. And just to give you an illustration, we'll just fire this up. You can see there is some wibbly wobbliness. And I believe that jack shaft is bent. So I'm going to strip this down, see what's going on. I think I'm going to have to make a new jack shaft, and I have to do something with these pulleys, and we'll discuss that when we get them out. That belt should not slap around like that. Okay. The jack shaft comes all the way up between the top of the pulley and up to the top of the casting here. You can just see the jack shaft in there. So I have no idea why they felt they needed to make that shaft that long, because the result is you cannot get this belt off because you can't get it past that shaft. So to change this belt you have to completely dismantle the head like this, which is ridiculous. So if I have to make a new shaft, well, that is either I'm making a new shaft that's shorter or that's getting modified. So that's BS. Yeah, so this tooth pulley's loose. The key fell out, so whatever. That was close to giving up the ghost. It looks like there's some kind of butchered repair from some person.
Right.
This one is not too bad. It's only the lower pulley that's broken, and it's only minimal. So I may live with that. or try building this up with some weld material and then just finish it. I may do that for this one, because this one is pretty good otherwise. So that's that. The motor pulley though is much worse, and I may just make a new pulley for that. Although even that could be repaired. Maybe I'll try repairing them, and then if that don't work out, then just make new ones. Up at the top of the Cincinnati here, I am greatly encouraged by what I've found. Although it's a bit grimy, what I've found is that there is no noticeable play in the spindle. The spindle bearings are smooth, and there's no noticeable play in the spindle sleeve either. And I checked earlier on the run out on the taper inside the spindle is 5/10. So I'm not going to do a complete strip down of the head, not necessary. All of the Transgressions are in the belt drive system. What I am going to do though, since I'm at this point, is drain the old oil out, and I'm also going to pull the head off because I want to take a look at the rotation drive system, which wasn't working right. So I might as well have a look at that. But this is good news. This is very good news. This is all solid. So there we are. Now, what horrors lay inside? Oh, it's not that bad. It looked like, well, of course, this is what has you saying, oh, I'd better strip it down. Oh boy. Oh. It ain't that difficult to do. Right, we seem to be getting somewhere. I followed the manual to the letter, and in doing so broke this gear. This is, I think this is Tufnell or a very similar material. It's a resin impregnated fabric, old t-shirts probably. Irritating as that is, I can save this because I can bore out this and make a metal hub replacement and pin that in or something. So this drives the downfeed, so that's annoying. I did that exactly the way the manual said and it broke, but now I believe it's a case of removing this block, which is a physical stop for the quill downfeed, and then I think this assembly will slide out the bottom. just like that. Let's have a look. You can see in the back there some metal shavings right back in there. Don't know what that's about, but we'll have them out of there. And look, that's where the broken gear went, but I can fix that. The bore is nice and clean, everything's good there. What I do want to do is clean out this gearbox. So I want to have the head off to do that. And when I have the head off, I can investigate this worm gear that's in here and see if I can figure out why that's stuck, because being able to actually easily rotate that head would be useful. Right, well, let's have a look at the Transgressions. There's this thing. Nice idea, but poor execution. So this is just for belt adjustment. The actual component on the machine would have been a brass knob. So I like the idea of the handle better, but you know, I'm not putting this back on. I'll either make a completely new one or rework this and just make it much better. Exhibit A. Exhibit B, the pulleys, or the sheaves or sheaves. Not as bad as I'd actually thought. This one is a bit broken around the edges, but the rest of the cone is okay. So my first attempt at repairing this is going to be to just build this up with some weld material and then machine it clean. That's that one. This one, not quite as good, more breakage here. So I think what I'm going to try a similar thing, but what I'm going to do here is turn off this face and weld on a disc and then machine that. Here for this one, I will machine this right across and weld on a piece of material and then come in and machine both of those and dress those up. That should save it. Now, both of these pulleys are loose on their shaft. This is the jack shaft or idle shaft. This is not the original piece of equipment from Cincinnati. This has been made, and you know, as a repair item, I'm pretty sure, because this keyway is bloody awful, and the parts diagram shows a stepped arrangement here, and I think what happened is this all got damaged and someone has bored out and sleeved this pulley and then made a new shaft. Well, it's just very loose, and when I was running the machine, the key actually dropped out the bottom pulley. This pulley goes on the bottom of the shaft, and there's no way of locking the key in. It's very loose, so that dropped out. This item is the housing that holds this shaft with these two bearings. This has become worn, so someone has actually, these bearings are so loose, someone has actually tried gluing them into this housing. So what's happening is this shaft is wiggling around in this housing a bit, and it's enough for the pulleys to walk on the shaft. So what to do? Well, these are 6003 bearings, and what I can do is get a different size bearing that's slightly bigger on the OD and slightly bigger on the ID, and that way I can machine this housing out to take a new bearing, just take a little piece of material out of there, make a nice close fit, and then I can machine a new shaft with larger diameter here, and what I can do is make a larger diameter for the bearing and then a reduced diameter to go into the pulley, and I can just clean the pulleys out to make them a very, very close fit. And then I'll make keyways where the keyway doesn't come all the way to the end of the shaft, and then the key won't drop out. The original factory item here had woodruff keys in it. I don't have woodruff key cutter, so I'm not going to do it that way. Worst comes to the worst, I could remake that, but I don't need to. I think I can clean this up. And that should get all of this running straight and true. That's that stuff. Now, where is it? Here we are. This item drives the spindle. There's a splined shaft in there. This provides drive for the downfeed. Now this bearing on the bottom here is in great shape, and it's good and tight on the shaft, so that's fantastic.
Oh, suit you, sir. Suit you, sir. Oh.
The top bearing, however, was, as Max Grant says, it's like a cock in a shirt sleeve. That simply will not do, boys and girls. It won't do at all. But what to do? Because what's happening is, this is the main drive pulley that goes on here. And what's happening is, as the machine runs, as the motor runs, it's making this wobble about. And I don't actually think that that wobble is transmitting through the spindle to the end mill. I'm pretty sure it's not, because that's a loose enough fit in the spline to not transmit that. Nevertheless, I'd like to fix that. So what I'm going to do is get a different size bearing, because there's a bearing that exists that has the same OD, same thickness, but a 45mm ID, whereas this is 35. And then what I can do is make a close fitting sleeve to go between the new bearing and this, and get a nice snug fit so that it won't wobble around. That's actually not all that much work to do that. We're looking at one new shaft, one sleeve, and a little bit of welding and touch up on 2 pulleys. And then once we get all of that assembled, I can measure everything, and I can actually put locking screws, proper locking screws, into these pulleys that keep them in a set location so they don't walk up and down. It's not that much work to do all of that stuff. It's just a bit of planning. And then all of that should run true, and it will be vibration free. It's already very smooth, even with all these faults in there, but what's happening is the belts, everything walks. And these pulleys are supposed to be like that in relation to each other. This one on the idle shaft ends up walking a complete position off. And that's just not going to do it. And then what happens is this one walks a bit, and the tooth belt ends up getting chewed up. So that can all be addressed. Now for the good news. The good news is this. This is the spindle assembly. It's running very smooth, and there's absolutely no play in it. And there's absolutely no play in this sleeve in the housing. So this is all solid. I am going to take it apart since I've got it this far, and that way I can get all the dirt and shit out of it. And then we'll see what bearings are actually used and decide whether to replace them. I'm leaning towards not bothering, because they're probably quite expensive bearings, and these ones are fine. And it's not that difficult to get all this apart if I really have to replace them later. So, but I do want to clean it up. That's essential, having got this far.
And then as for the rest of it, it was just a case of degreasing and cleaning up and putting back together. There's one gear repair to do, which is this composite gear, which is the resin soaked old t-shirts. So I'll have to bore this out and make a bushing of some kind to go in there, but that's recoverable. And then put it all back together and it will be a marvelous machine. It was already pretty good. This is just going to take it to the next level. So glad I did this little bit of exploration. Hope you'll stick around for the repair work, because I think that's going to be quite fun. So I was getting a bit worried because this started having all the signs of becoming a bottomless pit project where the machine turned out to not be as good as I'd at first thought. I've had ups and downs of feelings on this machine. When I got it, I was excited because in the gloom of the Quonset hut, it looked to be a really good machine. So I bought it for a good price, brought it back, and then I started uncovering a few things and I thought, oh, is this just going to be a nightmare where it's just a piece of crap? Well, happily, no, it's not a piece of crap. All the measurements I took in the Quonset hut have turned out to actually be correct. I've tried shaking the table and the knee around as much as I can many times since I bought it, and I can't get any reading on a test indicator once I've got all the gibs adjusted properly. Similarly, 5/10 run out on the spindle as it was, which is perfectly acceptable. So there's just a few things to clean up that will just make it that much nicer. You know, I have to stop the pulleys walking around. That's no good. But it's not going to take much work to get that stable and running smooth and true. So I'm back to liking the machine again. I never really disliked it. I was just worried it was going off the rails, but it's looking good. We'll make a few parts, do some cleaning, get this all reassembled, see how it looks. Stick around. I think this little bit of machine repair is going to be quite informative. It's quite interesting to see how you can recover things without replacing every part, but by just going to different size bearings and just, you know, making sleeves and changing a few little bits and pieces. So